Well, we have our first real contestant, I guess, for the summer with our presentations now starting to line up. Xbox, Microsoft, has announced that they will be doing their presentation this summer, as expected, in June, right? June 12th. I don't think it's surprising to anyone. It seems to fall in line with what we were expecting. So if people noticed that I was going around and doing different 2022 videos for the different companies, and Microsoft decided to just announce that they were doing their presentation like a month and a half early. It caught me off guard a little bit because it is so early to announce that. But I wanted to bring in Mr. Matty Plays to talk to me a bit about Xbox. He is one of the hosts on Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. So I figured, good person to bring in. Let me know what's going on. Also, big fan of Bethesda and what we're expecting to see here.
Some may say Starfield. Bethesda shill, but that's not me.
So I'm very curious about Microsoft this year because I have been thinking for a little while that they are lining up for 2023 to, I think, be their big like jumping off point for when they got a lot of these studios to when you would start to expect these projects to be shown and really have been fully spun up. So, I kind of wanted to do this in two parts. One, just what we can expect to come out of this in 2022, since that's like the immediate future, and then what we think could come out of this for beyond 2022. So they said 90 minutes, but then they also followed up. It seemed like Aaron Greenberg and some others said not locked in at 90, but a general idea as to how much we're going to have there. So should we start with the obvious, and that's Starfield? I mean, it's going to be there. Their marketing reflects it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be there. The big question for me has always been like, how much Starfield are we going to see, right? We've seen the Bethesda formula for the past two BGS releases has been these big 30-minute presentations, Todd Howard's on stage, and you always think, well, that's for Fallout, something that's like a known quantity. What do you do with Starfield, which, outside of a couple of leaks, we know very little about? And my theory was always, we got to see a lot of it, right? We should see that half hour. But when you look at the entire first-party lineup, the timing for all these studios that they acquired, like back in 2018, how far along they should be in development, things that are already announced, like a Hellblade 2 and Avowed that I think are due for more updates, like release windows, or in the case of Avowed, like an actual preview. It's like, okay, we have a lot more to show this year. And I think that's why everyone's having trouble narrowing down their predictions, is because last year it was easy, right? We're like, okay, we know we're going to get the typical Microsoft formula. We're going to get a Forza game. We're going to get a Halo game. We've seen this before. But this is hopefully, this is the beginning of like a new era for them, right? Where when this 2022 showcase kicks off, that it'll signify that we're not going to keep getting the same formula we've got for generations from them. Like Starfield will be something new, Redfall, I'm expecting Forza Motorsport, but really Starfield is the one that I want to know, what do you think? Do you think it's going to start the show, end the show? Because, I was caught off guard last year when they started the show with Starfield and ended it with Redfall. So what are your general expectations for it?
I kind of feel like we're going to see, like, I think a good chunk of this will be just, this is Starfield. We're going to show you a part of the game. I assume in-game they might even play a little bit of it for us. And it could take up 10 to 15 minutes of just Starfield. So I almost wonder if it's that impressive, they just start it with it. I mean, maybe they want to come in with like a surprise announcement. Could be a third-party agreement or something with a game no one's expecting, like how Sony just showed up with Wolverine. No one was expecting that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've been saying for a while Xbox should go to a Hulk game, but that's just me.
I love that idea, man. Fits the green.
Yeah, but I feel like you can kind of set the tone with Starfield. It's the game that they're obviously marketing. It's the big push. It's this game that people have been waiting a long time for. I've seen a lot of Mr. Matty Plays thumbnails for years now over this thing. So I assume this is the big moment that they can set up the entire show with, and then they can roll into, hey, here's Phil Spencer, how you doing? Here's Aaron Greenberg, here's Sarah Bond, and like let's just show you the rest of this stuff.
Yeah. I think you're on the money with them starting with it. I kind of hope they would end with it, but I think it makes sense to start it. It's sort of a tone setter. It's like, here's why you bought the Series X is kind of what people are expecting with this game, right? And for a lot of people like myself who have been longtime BGS fans, it's 76 was such a drastic obstacle to overcome that you can't help but look at that and go like, hopefully those days are behind us, right? Like for a lot of people, Fallout 4 under-delivered. I thought it was a solid game, but it definitely wasn't as good as something like an Oblivion or a Fallout 3 or a Skyrim, like those kind of generation-defining games, same as Morrowind. And the way they're talking about Starfield, they're defining it as more hardcore, and they're foolishly saying publicly like, oh, people are ready for this type of RPG when they were the ones defining that for so long in the AAA space. So it sounds like they're going back to basics as well, which is what I'm most excited about. It's why I do have a lot of anticipation for this game. So I do hope they come out and really show some systems for the game, how does space exploration, if at all, work, that type of stuff. And from there, it's really the question of, again, with this game being marketed differently than other BGS games, do they show more in upcoming showcases? Because like with Fallout 4 and 76, they're like, here's your one look, and we're shutting the door now. With 76, there was a press preview. I was a part of that. But otherwise, there really wasn't anything else to go off of. So Bethesda's always been quiet, and I'm curious if Microsoft is going to open them up a little bit more. So that'll be the biggest adjustment for sure with this showcase.
I think for Starfield, it's going to be hard to, I feel like, fit what we expect this to be into like 1 10-minute block. So
Yes.
if I was going to do this now as them, I would start out basic on a planet. You're walking around, you're doing a few things. You then get into your ship. It progressively gets larger and larger and larger. And then you do a fast zoom out of planets, galaxies, all this stuff, and it just turns into the Starfield logo. Something like that to kind of give you a ground level, and then all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, there's this massive galaxy and universe that you can explore. And then, okay, we'll see you guys in November or something like that. Like that. Just a way to kind of build that hype and push towards, a pretty good date, right? 11/11.
It's a sexy date.
Yeah. So I think Starfield's going to be the big thing a lot of people come away talking about in terms of games coming up soon. And I kind of would like them to go the route of, let's show you the stuff that's coming this year and then work into like the future stuff maybe halfway through the show. So we get a good look at Starfield. We know Forza's coming this year. Right? That's
a pretty strong expectation. There's been a lot of leaks for that on Reddit. There was some playtesting leaks. They've been testing that game a lot lately, and it was announced in 2020, so it feels like this should be the year for that.
New engine and everything. Like, it sounds like this next gen, all this stuff. So.
It's weird because what I was told was that the Xbox One version we saw on Reddit apparently may have been just features stripped down to continue testing the game. Yeah, and that may not be an Xbox One native game. I think it'd be kind of strange if while they're pushing Redfall and Starfield to next gen only, that Forza Motorsport, which is this like graphical showcase, if anything at all, besides being a racing game a lot of people like, is held back on last gen consoles. So we'll see on that, but it seems like that may be a misinterpreted leak by a lot of people.
I think that's just playtests. I don't believe, like, some of the two screenshots that got out there did not look very good at all. So it was definitely like missing like most of the production value for that game to make it work, if at all, on the Xbox One. So those are two games I'm looking forward to. Redfall is one that I'm also very curious about because they showed us the cinematic trailer for it. No gameplay or anything there. And then we had this weird leak of alpha footage. Once again, playtesting stuff. And it looked bad, but that's just like, guys, it was missing textures. Didn't have anything on it. Like, they were just testing it. So they got to show us gameplay for this too. Or are they just going to go Starfield gameplay, Forza gameplay, and then Redfall gameplay? Boom, boom, boom. Back.
I hope so, because that's the biggest critique I think all of us have of Xbox and their showcases. It's a lot of CGI. And when you are showing gameplay, it's, again, what I said earlier, things that you're really familiar with. So for Redfall to be something new, Starfield to be something new, Forza we are familiar with, but that's okay because you have two other things to balance it out. I do expect sort of the 1-2-3 punch this fall of, like, right now it's saying that summer 2022 is going to be where Redfall lands. So I could see that being like September, Forza being October, and then Starfield, we already know, is November, because I think one thing that worked out well for Xbox last year was the 1, 2, 3, 4, where they had Psychonauts, they had Age of Empires, Forza Horizon, and Halo. So they really were they had a steady presence throughout the entire holiday period, plus Game Pass Day 1 releases. So I feel like Redfall, while we haven't heard much about it, the way I look at it, I'm curious if you agree, is like after I saw Ghostwire Tokyo, which I was like, oh, we're not going to see this game for a while, they just re-reveal it suddenly on a State of Play, and they're like, see you next month. I'm like, okay, wow. I didn't expect that at all. I thought this game would be marketed more. So I feel like the same will happen for Redfall. They'll just re-reveal it here at this E3 and say, here's the gameplay, and we'll see it maybe in September. And there'll be like a beta, because it's supposed to be co-op, like maybe a beta in the summer. I could definitely see something like that happening. Yeah,
I like the idea of that 1, 2, 3, just release after release after release for Microsoft's holiday, with a couple, maybe a third party Game Pass Day 1 release thrown in there or something.
Yeah, that's the big question mark, is I don't know what they'll pick for that. I always put my finger on Gotham Knights, but
Oh, wow, that would be a big one. Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
I just the way I look at it is they have yet to get outside of Back 4 Blood, but Back 4 Blood kind of just flopped in a lot of ways. Like they have yet to really get a game that everyone's looking forward to that will be day one on Game Pass, right? You get like an Outriders. I think MLB The Show is like their top quality game right now, but the MLB clearly benefits from that for reasons we don't really have to go into. But you really look outside of that, and a lot of their day one games are either excellent indie titles or really like when we're looking at a AAA level, the games that look like they're not getting much attention, so they take the day one Game Pass deal. So I feel like Gotham Knights with its co-op features, I'm like, maybe, why not? We'll see.
Sure.
But that's kind of the bigger anomaly of it all.
I'm curious if Halo Infinite's going to have an update here, mostly just here's Season 3 or here's what we have planned, like to actually show us for the end of this year. This has been a game that's been beaten up pretty good because of the lack of updates. Season 2 came out recently, and I've been playing it, but I'll admit I don't know if I'm just not really feeling Last Spartan Standing that much, and most of my challenges are now centered around that, so I feel kind of like I got to play this. But I haven't been blown away by Season 2 so far. However, in the back of my mind, I know that Forge is going to really kick things off with this game, and they say the beta is coming towards the end of this year. I've heard some stuff about Forge, and I think if they can show it, convey it in a trailer, I think it could be a big moment for Halo Infinite because it sounds like they have full scripting going on, which tells me you could have like set pieces, maybe that plays into the story campaign mode. Of course, you can start building out all of the old Halo maps that people are going to do immediately. That seems to me like a big reveal for Halo Infinite. I'm hoping that's something they would be ready to show here, but I feel like Halo Infinite has to have some kind of presence here just to keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can't abandon that one. It's disappointing what happened with it. I was also told separately that like for campaign expansions, they should be releasing for free with Game Pass. So that's a matter of like, I feel like if you want to pull the trigger on that, my thought process on this showcase is like, you want to see the now, right? Like you talked about the immediate stuff in 2022, but I feel like because right now you need to establish like this is a new era for Xbox, I think you need to just go hard with some pre-announcements. And I think like Halo's one that, yeah, we're going to have to fight uphill battle with this one. I'm much like you. I share the same thoughts. I think Season 2 is very disappointing. I picked it up and I was reminded of the issues I already had a problem with, the challenge-based progression, and then you get forced into modes like Last Spartan Standing, which I'm like very in the middle on. So I think, yeah, you got to keep pushing forward and say, like, here's what Forge looks like and here are the expansion features. Because right now they are flight testing it and they're going to open that up in the summer, they're saying. So I think, yeah, a little preview of that would be pretty wise of them. It's just like, are they too reactionary if they share it now, right? That's the question mark. Do you look weak by doing that? Because I think you need to take advantage of the platform that everyone's watching and remind them Halo exists because the player counts dipped so much. But people also want stuff now, not in the future. So
right.
I could see it being there. I could also see them kind of like saying, no, we're not ready for anything right now.
Maybe that mode from Certain Affinity just gets a tease because they did.
Yes, good point.
They could do something. People are saying it might be a battle royale, but their own take on it. Something like that could at least get things going again with Halo Infinite and get people excited for a release on it. So that's just some ideas there that they could do. But I mean, I'm looking at the list of studios now. Is there anything that I'm not mentioning right this second that could be coming out this year as late as December? Like we go right to December 31st.
Right now, I can't think of anything. I think one you might want to keep an eye on, just from what I've researched, I haven't been told anything, is Roundhouse. I feel like that's a studio that, based off like job listings and stuff we've seen, and as well as LinkedIn profiles, has been working on something since around like 2018, 2019. I could see that being revealed and maybe slotting into the end of this year. That could be a surprise. But otherwise, I think we have a pretty strong gauge on a lot of the 2023 stuff that's coming, where a lot of those teams were like acquired in 2018.
Yep.
Some of them like Double Fine released games just last year. So now they're beginning their exclusivity cycle. So yeah, I think we nailed pretty much everything I can think of off the top of my head that would be landing in this year, outside of course, the third-party surprises. And that's the beauty of Game Pass for Xbox, is their ability to market things as their, I put this in quotes, like their own. Like people will associate games with Xbox if it's day one on Game Pass. So it's kind of like this marketability that can allow them to react to things. It's like, oh, we have some gaps here. Like, let's strike this deal or try to strike this deal and fill in those spaces in the year. So if they feel something's empty, I think they'll be more aggressive on that front. And especially when you got something like Starfield waiting at the end of the year, they maybe don't feel the pressure to jam-pack all the way to December like they did last year.
So looking at 2023, they have a lot of studios, and I'm not even thinking of Activision, Blizzard, or anything. I mean, that'll be next E3. If they have that deal done, it's going to be wild just trying to figure out what they're going to show. Because then it's like if
they'll need 2 showcases.
There's too many studios here to try to jam this into a 90-minute thing. But just looking up the list up and down here, Windows Central just did a quick TLDR list of all the different studios. Compulsion Games, you mentioned Double Fine, In Exile, even 343. There were rumors that they were working on something outside of Halo Infinite, but in the Halo universe. Mojang, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Playground, Coalition, Rare, The Initiative, Turn 10, Undead Labs, World's Edge, Bethesda Softworks, id Software, Arcane Studios, Tango Gameworks, Machine Games, ZeniMax, and then just Xbox Publishing.
Yeah, it's insane. It's disgusting.
And there was I saw talks, I think Rand mentioned it, that almost everyone there, all the different studios were trying to submit something for the show, and I'm like, how is this going to work?
That's where my theories. I mean, interrupt you. That's where my theory comes in about the summer Games Fest showcase that's happening with Jeff Keighley, because that goes ahead of Xbox. And one thing we've really seen historically with Xbox has been this lack of faith in their own showcase. Like last year at Gamescom, I think Xbox went first or they went after. I'm not sure what the exact order was, but it was last year, and everyone was thinking okay, there'll be a Halo trailer at the Xbox show, and they held the Halo trailer for Jeff Keighley's show, not the Xbox show, and instead showed Age of Empires documentary footage, and people are like, what is happening here? So Xbox understands that the numbers Keighley can bring, and so that's why I would be surprised if we see some of these things that are being pitched at the studio, they take them to Jeff and go hey, can we show them here instead? Especially if they're new things, right? Things that we don't know much about. I could see that being
that's 3 days. It's 3 days before Microsoft's event, so you're right. They could take something from any of these studios really and just be like, look, it has this unannounced project. Let's just drop it here. You show it off, and then we'll also plug our own game show in 3 days. But I mean, Summer Games Fest. They had a partner with Xbox last year, according to their website and everything. I'm trying to remember exactly what they had announced there, but it seems like Jeff is ramping up for an E3-like show, basically the Game Awards without the awards, I would assume.
Yes.
But why not? Why not drop something in there with the wealth of studios and IPs they have here and unannounced projects, and just say, here's some random thing that Tango Gameworks was also working on next to Ghostwire. Go ahead and show it here.
Yes.
I like that idea to do that, because I'm trying to think of how they can maybe round out an hour, we'll say. Let's say half an hour. Look, they just showed Starfield. They showed Redfall. They showed Forza. You have an hour to talk about all these different things. And I noticed, I think Jez Corden over on Windows Central went over all the different things that are rumored and speculated on now that these studios are working on. And most of them are working on 2, even 3 projects right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, especially someone like Certain Affinity we talked about with Halo, and apparently they're working on a Monster Hunter game for Xbox, and a lot of these studios are doing multiple things, as you mentioned. So that's kind of the interesting part. Obsidian, everyone's thinking Avowed, but Josh Sawyer, he actually just tweeted yesterday, I think it was. He said, I'm feeling really good about the game I'm working on, by the way. And so a lot of people are expecting that'll be there. I talked to Jeff Grubb about that on my channel, and it's this kind of Disco Elysium style game. So that'll be really cool. That'll be different. That's kind of the beauty of Xbox acquiring someone like Obsidian, is they're just giving more money to a team that has a lot of other splintered off teams beneath them that are going to do things like Grounded, do things like whatever Josh Sawyer's game is, but then also they're going to do the big AAA things like in Outer Worlds 2. They're going to do something like Avowed. So I think that's what's going to surprise some people when we really dig into it with this conversation is, we're always looking at one studio, one game, but the multiple teams within these studios can provide a lot of different experiences for us. So I think that's one we could look out for. One I wouldn't say is because I remember I put it on my prediction list last year because I'm like, it's time to see Everwild from Rare. And I was thinking it's got to be time now, right? And when I made the prediction last year, a source had messaged me hey, dude, saw your list. That one, no, that's not going to be here. It's soft rebooted, which then got reported afterwards. And I think they said it's been punted to 2024, the earliest. So I wouldn't expect it this year either, personally.
Big ones that people are going to be talking about: Fable, Perfect Dark. You think either of those are here at all? Not necessarily, it's coming out next year or something, but just to remind us that it still exists. Or you think they're just going to be this is just not ready. We're just going to kind of move away from this for now.
I think Fable has a stronger chance than Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark would be the one I would selfishly like to be more reassured on, right? Like after all the reports came out about the initiative, you see what's happening
Studios getting
with Crystal
passed
Dynamics.
around. Yeah,
Right? It's like, man, what's going on here? I would feel selfishly a little more reassured just laying eyes on that game, but I'd be more surprised if that was there. I feel like that's also in that 2024 window, given the size of the initiative, how small they were, and then they just brought in Crystal.
Yeah.
I feel like that's still got a ways to go. I think Fable is one that you could probably hold on to until next year, but again, I do want to see a more aggressive Xbox. Like that's just my personal desire. So if they feel like they can put a 2023 window on this and be like, here's the game, we revealed it in 2020, so I feel like 2 years from now, you should be able to show something that's more indicative of the final product, provided it's close enough. That'd be nice. But really my big one, like, do you have any dream announcements? Because for me, it's like, again, I want them to say, like, here's the current with the Starfield, and here's, like, the far future with something like a New Vegas too, right? We've heard, like, a ton of rumors.
There's been a lot of rumors about that.
A lot of rumors about it, like, just the talks. And I'm like, look, if you can just lay down the legalese and you could say, like, we're going to do this thing. We don't know when it's going to happen, but, like, here's a cinematic trailer and just kind of pop it. Just let people know, like, hey, Xbox is going to be the home of a New Vegas follow-up. I think that would be enormous. That cannot be understated because Fallout, even after 76, I understand, like, I'm a huge Fallout fan. 76 was destructive to that franchise, but it's still widely loved for its past games. So I feel like if you can do something like that to pull the trigger on that for the future, that's something I'd really like to see.
I just want to see some like weird stuff from Microsoft because I mean a lot of people know them as like the online multiplayer shooter company right now with a lot of the stuff that comes out, right? Yeah. But like when I saw like when Machine Games announced that they were working on Indiana Jones, like that's a weird one. Like even for them to do, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to see that. Like that sounds interesting. I'm having a hard time picturing how they're going to go about that. They're also apparently rumored to be doing Wolfenstein 3. I can picture that one. That one's like, okay, I understand how they're going to do that. But like Indiana Jones is like, that's one that I would like to see. I really want to see them partner with it sounds funny with Disney in some way, but either Marvel or something Star Wars related. Just go out there and get it done because like right now we're seeing a lot of these deals being struck with Disney. They're very open to Star Wars or Marvel now. Like they aren't doing stuff with EA as an exclusivity thing for Star Wars anymore. And we see a lot of these publishers take advantage of it. Ubisoft doing something with it. So when I start hearing that, I'm like, well, they could make their own Star Wars game or they could do something Marvel. I said the Hulk, but I mean, they could pick whatever they want at this point. They want to do a pitch.
They're missing out big time not being in the pop culture space with Marvel, DC, Star Wars, any of that. It's funny. There was a rumor for a while about like a Mandalorian game from ZeniMax Online, which is such like that. You want to talk weird like that? That was weird because I heard that in the beginning of 2021. I didn't give it much thought, and it just kept popping up. It turns out it was like fake to some extent, but to me, the reason why I believe that one was fake was just because when you look at how Lucasfilms has behaved, where they just like pre-announce everything, like they did it for Respawn, they did it for Ubisoft, like you don't even see the game. They're just like, we're partnering up and we're doing this. They did it with Skydance. I feel like this is one that they probably want to keep quiet with the showcase so close by. So I feel like that's something that is possible. And I think if you're Xbox, you can't help but look at what PlayStation's doing. And I know they've said in the past, like, oh, we don't want to be the green of the blue or whatever the hell they said. But I feel like you got to get in on that, right? Like the fact that Sony got KOTOR, which was an original Xbox exclusive, that's not a good look in my eyes. And look, I'm like the biggest KOTOR fan you'll probably ever meet, but I was like, that's not a good look for Xbox. You got to figure something out with that. I knew they had an offer in on it, but they did not push it hard enough. And I don't think they understand the power of Marvel and Star Wars quite yet. So I'm hoping they finally come around on that.
Because that's something they could show like they did with Indiana Jones, where it's not anywhere near being ready, but the deal is done. Because we're seeing that now. Everyone's announcing deals as soon as they're inked with things like that Max Payne remake, where they legitimately signed it, and the next day they're like, hey, we're doing it. Just like, just we saw a logo for Contraband. Do something like that, but with the Marvel, like Star Wars. That's just why not add something else to the lineup there. What about Contraband though? Have you heard anything? I haven't heard anything about this game really myself. I've seen the logo. I've heard some rumors about it, but some people are saying it's coming out. It might be coming out this year even.
Yeah, I had heard 2023. I remember talking to Jeff Grubb about this as well, and I remember him telling me that they had trouble at times hitting deadlines, because we were talking about potential acquisition targets for Microsoft. This was a pre-Activision conversation for those who want to date it. So we were talking about targets for them, and we mentioned Avalanche as one, and he had said, well, yeah, just like Microsoft's kind of big on hitting milestone goals, and he said he heard Avalanche has had trouble with that. So if they have, then I'd be surprised if that game was ready for this year. Because since the get-go, when that was a rumor, I think Jez or Jeff, one of those two, they're always leaking everything. One of those two leaked it, and I believe the initial report was 2023. I had not heard anything about 2022, but I think that game will be very good for Microsoft if it's kind of like what we're imagining, where we saw the success of Sea of Thieves, for example, how it's like this just very co-op driven game about getting on the ship and just letting the world take over. And it seems like Contraband is very much that, but instead you're like stealing things. It's very vehicle based. So I'm thinking that'll be a hit for Microsoft whenever it does come around. It's just a matter of when, but I'm feeling 2023 on that personally. But that doesn't mean it can't be at the show, right? If it early 2023, maybe that'd be perfect.
Their Xbox publishing has Project Indus, Project Dragon, Project Belfry, Project Shaolin, As Dusk Falls, and then Contraband. They got a lot of projects going on.
Yes.
I assume any one of these publishing projects can just be shown this showcase, and I'm hoping a lot of these will be weird creative things, because that, like I said, that's mostly what I would like to see from Microsoft right now. You know what else I'd like to see is them take a shot and fund a higher quality Japanese RPG. Just take a shot.
My language.
Just see what happens. You know, like they did that quite a bit back on the 360 with like Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey. Just do something like that. Just see if it works. Put it on Game Pass. See if it draws up some numbers and go from there. Like I said, variety to me is like one of the big things I'd like to see from Microsoft, because they have the racing, the online shooting, all that stuff is down pat. Like you go there for that. But why not try something weird and go get a try to fund the JRPG,
dude? That's what I'm saying, because they're so far behind in that region, and I just feel like it's because they're not investing. You look at the numbers. I remember we covered it on Defining Duke. It was released, like the numbers in Japan for Xbox units sold, as well as the games sold, and you could tell when they're putting JRPGs out, which was during the original Xbox and the 360 era, like their sales numbers in Japan, while they weren't anywhere close to like Sony with the PlayStation, they were still acceptable for a region that they're not really dominant in. Like they're a very US-centric market, but that's something that I'm totally with you on, because the 360 era of JRPGs, like Infinite on Discovery, you mentioned Lost Odyssey, it's another amazing one. Like there were so many surprisingly good ones. Operation Darkness was another one by Atlas.
Wow.
Like they did some,
that's right.
Yeah, they did some just random ones, man. So I would love to see them go back to that. I know game development's more expensive now, but that's why I'm like, work them down with Game Pass, right? Like I think Soul Hackers 2 is this kind of SMT spin-off game coming out on Xbox, but for some reason not the Switch, even though SMT 5 just came out on the Switch. But that's coming to Xbox this August. And I'm like, butter them up, do a Game Pass deal of some kind. Like, let's see if we can show people that Xbox fans want JRPGs. Just, you got to make them want to pay for it. And that's where, as you said, they got to invest. They got to make
Sega, I almost wonder if Sega would be open to deals for some of their RPGs, just Phantasy in Star. General. I mean, yeah, Phantasy Star, Skies of Arcadia. There's some stuff they could do. And I almost wonder if that would be possible for them. But do you think the Coalition has been working a lot with Unreal Engine? They did the Unreal Engine 5 showcase with Epic. I almost wonder if they would have apparently an unannounced project. I heard they're going to be doing something with Gears of War as like a remaster or some sort of remake or something. And apparently that might even come out later this year.
Yeah, that's one I almost forgot about. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, that was in the rumors for a while, was this Marcus Phoenix collection of some kind, which is really overdue, because the Gears of War series is so weird if you go back and try to play them, because you have like Ultimate Edition for the first game, and then you have to do back compat for 2 and 3, and then you've got 4 and 5, just obviously on the Xbox One. So yeah, it's a really weird situation. That's something that's got to happen, like this Master Chief collection like treatment for Gears. I think that's long overdue.
I like that idea.
I'd be very stoked to see that. That was a rumor earlier this year, so that's actually one I could legitimately see. I'd be very excited about that one. Otherwise, I remember the rumor was that Coalition was pitching a Lucasfilm game.
Oh,
and that was a thing for a while, but I know that apparently was turned down, and I don't know what they're working on individually, but I know they're working on something else, as you've mentioned, Beyond Gears.
Lucasfilm game. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that
was
could.
Yeah,
Keep an eye
it's
on
very
that.
it's very interesting. They're trying. It's just a matter of like, I guess, getting the pitch accepted.
I just want to see. I want to see them with Unreal Engine 5. That's going to be some wild stuff with them.
Yeah.
id Software just has unannounced projects. It's just what it's listed. It's just unannounced projects. All right, great.
Quake. That's my guess.
That has been rumored for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Quake.
Yeah. Just job listings suggest it. You know.
Yeah, I would like to see a Quake reboot. I think that'd be great. We had Quake come up to like the PS5 and the Xbox and the Switch, right? MVG actually worked on getting those out. He even apparently did some of the haptics in the PS5 controller and stuff. He's in the credits. Awesome. He's there. But
let's go.
That people got really excited for that. So I think Quake could work if they did a reboot of it. And again, like you're mentioning, the future of Xbox here. We're talking about beyond this year. Throw up the title card, you know?
Yeah. If you can get something going, why not?
So we're already talking about all these random announcements fitting into like an hour, and it's already pretty out of control here. Undead Labs, State of Decay 3, that seemed to have some talks about issues going on within that studio. I don't know if you think they would show another cinematic trailer, or is it like you got to show up with gameplay when you're ready to talk about it?
Yeah, I spoke to some people separately. That the vibe is that's not ready to be shown yet. It's still got a ways to go. Yeah.
Am I missing anything else that's like not obvious here? Because I went down their list here. ZeniMax Online. They have Elder Scrolls, of course. Then it just says another unannounced project.
Yeah, no idea what that
is. This is weird because like it's actually hard to pinpoint exactly what Microsoft is going to show now. Like it used to be, like you said, easier. It's kind of hard now to figure this out.
Yeah, that's why it's their year, man. It's their year to really strike. I mean, they can. By the way, I probably should have said this at the beginning, not the end of like a half-hour video. They can completely flop. By the way, they can absolutely drop the ball here and just mismanage these announcements, hold certain ones back, and kind of deliver an underwhelming showcase. But I feel like given the wealth of options they seem to have, just based off like development timelines, we should be seeing a lot this time around, and hopefully not all CGI. But yeah, it's a crapshoot effectively. There's a lot of like shoot from the hip on this one, so that's why I've been warning a lot of people on my channel. You're going to see a lot of rumors, a lot of conversation going around on the industry. There's already been a ton of Reddit leaks that have been debunked, and
it's the best kind.
Yeah, right. They're fun. They're definitely fun. Don't get me wrong, but there have been a lot of those. So it's going to be a busy time. Just everyone protect yourselves. It's going to be a lot. So we'll have our answers soon, I imagine.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. You know what? I like I said, I've been really targeting 2023 as a big turning point, I think, for Xbox, as a lot of these studios that they've acquired have spun up and most likely will be releasing some of these games. But let me get one. I got one more question for you. What do you think comes out first, Perfect Dark or Fable?
Oh, I'm gonna go Fable. Yeah,
Fable.
I think
Fable.
Fable was a rumor in like 2017. Like I remember that was a report from Eurogamer that they were like, yeah, Playground Games making Fable. I'm like, that's a racing game studio. So that's my pick.
The reason I'm kind of leaning towards Perfect Dark is because Crystal Dynamics can get stuff done.
That's
and
true.
They're there. They have their old head of studio or production from there who's heading an initiative, and they just kind of roll in here, and they're making a game that, I mean, the action adventure third person, we assume, female protagonist. I mean, they've done that many times now. So like this kind of seems like something that'd be right up their alley and something they can just be very familiar with when they walk in. So, and Playground's doing something completely different than they're used to with Fable. Yeah. So I don't know.
That's fair.
I'm kind of leaning towards Perfect Dark on this. I don't know. We'll see. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think they'll be within a year of each other, maybe. So
yeah, definitely.
I think it could be fun. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, Maddie. I have his link down below to his channel. You want to let everyone know where they can find you? Any future plans?
Yeah, right now you can find me at Mr. Matty Plays here on YouTube. You can also check out my retro channel if you're into more nostalgic content. Retro Rebound, that's been doing really well, and I've been having a lot of fun over there, so you can check out either of those channels. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter at G27Status, and That's where you'll see me blabbing about all things video games and also arguing about using a fork for mac and cheese. So with that, that's all I got to promote. No big projects on the horizon right now. Just a lot of coverage given the, as we talked about, this showcase coming up. There's a lot to discuss.
Awesome. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.
Peace out.